to the latest episode. Old man of the three things, Mr. Joakim Noah. We got a little in-season tournament preview action. What's going on, sir? How are you?
No complaints, man. It's a beautiful day out here in Miami. It's not cold anymore. The sun is shining. I don't want to stunt too much because I know you guys are in cold New York, but it's good living out here. High quality living.
This is what the Miami does to you. The guy lives in Chicago for most of his life, and he gets back down, and you're a totally different person.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I see some fruits coming in. I got some mulberries coming in. I got some not mangoes, not yet, but got some avocados.
What do you want to grow that you have not tried yet?
Besides some nice ganja plants that I haven't been able to grow out here, it's the weather's not good enough yet, so I'm trying to figure that part out. Some weed plants would be cool.
Do you need more rain for that? What's the science behind it?
There is a big science behind it.
For sure.
Unfortunately, I don't know too much about it. I think I'm just gonna put some seeds in the ground and just see what happens. And go from there.
This is going to be your holidays research project.
Exactly.
On January 5th, we're going to do a check back. You're like, what do I need to maximize the ganja growth?
Exactly. If you got any info on it, just let me know.
This time next year, it's gonna be a compound.
I'm gonna have a nice farm out here for you.
All right, let's talk basketball just for a bit. We're gonna run through all four of the your favorite thing, the in-season tournament. We're gonna run through all four games, and we just want to we'll get into specifics. But I think the most important thing for me and for us is to get your sort of X factors and initial thoughts on all of them. So we'll start Knicks Hawks first. Okay. Tuesday night.
Knicks Hawks. I mean, first of all, the in-season tournament I think is awesome. These are do or die games. I think everybody's really excited. I think the 500K is definitely something that everybody's really hype about. I'm seeing like really competitive basketball in December. That's kind of a new system that I think is really working for the NBA. And it just shows like when you incentivize the guys to play do or die games, the competition picks up. So let's figure out how they're going to do that for the All-Star game as well. I think that's really going to take the league to another level.
For sure. With this series, we've talked about the Knicks offense so far. Right now they're first in offensive rating. They've been at times completely unstoppable, and they haven't. Cat's missed a few games, but Cat's having a career year right now. He and Jalen have been great. They've been shooting crazy from three. But I wanted to talk about Jalen Brunson versus Dyson Daniels in particular, because I feel like this is one of the sort of individual specific matchups that is probably going to define this game, and feels like, as Dyson has been like playing as he has, and as the Hawks defense has been playing how they have, it's probably going to be sort of an existing, a little bit of a rivalry for the rest of the season. I went to their game in November when they played, and Dyson really got under his skin. The Hawks won. This is down in Atlanta. Dyson really got under his skin. He was just fighting through basically everything. He's blowing up a lot of their actions. I have some of his crazy defensive numbers, but I wanted to get your thoughts before we get into that, just on this particular matchup and what you see both of the parties having to do.
Yeah, that matchup is definitely going to dictate a lot. So, when you think of Brunson and just the floor general that he is, probably one of the top floor generals in the league, he's brought so much stability to that team. Obviously, the high pick and roll with Cat it's deadly. And when you think of a guy like Dyson being able to blow up pick and rolls, it's really exciting. And usually when you see a guy like Dyson, back in the day, he reminds me a lot of like Tony Allen. And when you think of guys who are 6'8", usually they were guarding the top scorer, which was usually a wing. Yeah. And now you see guys guarding the high pick and roll and being able to really show an effect. So having a 6'8" guy on Brunson who can really guard the way that Dyson guards, I think that's going to be a hell of a, that high pick and roll is really going to dictate who's going to win this game.
What's the art with a guy like Tony, with a guy like Dyson, with guys like this? What's the art defensively to blowing up pick and rolls, blowing up actions without fouling?
I mean, some guys got it and some guys don't. I think that physically, obviously he's 6'8", he's built like a tank. Not everybody's built like that. So he has the physical attributes, and then it's a mentality thing. You obviously the big man has to call out the screen early, and I don't know if they're forcing him left or right, but obviously all that has to be said nice and early. And then when you have somebody who's 6'8", who really cares and who's, putting that kind of physicality and trying to blow up screens, I think that's really important.
So to run through a few of the Dyson numbers, he has 73 steals on the year. He's averaging 3.1 steals per game. The next closest is 45. He should break the record right now is 212, which if he keeps at this pace, he'll break by end of January, early February. He has 148 deflections. He should break that record by mid-January to late January as well. The record there is 315. These are just, sort of arbitrary numbers, but at the same point, like anytime you're breaking a record in January or early February before the All-Star game, that feels like it means something.
That means he's doing real well. He's doing good.
It means you're doing well. What do you think about when you think about like deflections in general, even from your career and the other guys you looked at defensively as guys who were really good defensive players? Do you feel like these numbers are kind of like instructive of something, or is it just do they feel like what are their importance?
No, I think deflections are everything. That means that you care, first of all, and I think that when you look at deflections, they don't show up in a stat sheet, But if you look at the team that usually has the most deflections, it shows effort. And the team that usually gives the most effort usually wins the ball game. It's not the talent that wins. It's just like how much effort are you putting into the game. I think deflections definitely show that.
Yeah. Is there anything, we're going to talk a ton about the Knicks this year in general. If we talked from the beginning of the show about how defensively with Tibbs schemes, they're not going to be perfect overnight. And they've said it. They said it the other night when they lost to Detroit. Is there anything you've seen watching them? Because the talent is clearly there, and they're missing Mitchell Robinson, so they're missing a rim protector. But the talent on the wings are clearly there, basically to be a top defensive team. And when we talk about how good the offense has been, this is a team that if they can reach that peak defensively, you probably start putting in a June title conversation. Is there something defensively that you're looking at? Maybe they can start Tuesday that they haven't been doing.
Well, look, offensively, they're a juggernaut. That's you can't deny that. And as effective as they are in the high pick and roll with Brunson and Cat, they have to figure out how to guard it themselves on the other end. And sometimes you can get a little tricky and maybe take Brunson out of that high pick and roll and put one of those big wings and try to have them guard the pick and roll. You can't do it all the time, but this is a really, really interesting game, especially like being able to play that game in the Garden. Trae's real comfortable in that building. We know the history that he had in that building in the playoffs. So it's a do or die game, and Trae's really hyped to come to all that New York hate.
He leans into it. He when they beat them in Atlanta, he was talking about he wished he was there. Like he
respects. He loves it. He loves it, of course, and he had some big moments in that building as well.
Yeah. The other Eastern Conference matchup, Orlando Milwaukee, really freaky injury luck. They announced over the weekend that Franz Wagner's been having an incredible All-Star season. Tore his right oblique after Paolo had done it. Have you had that injury?
I never had that injury. Thank God.
It's weird. It's crazy though that this happened to the two best players on one team.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are definitely freak injuries, and big shout out to the big German Wagner for what he's been able to do. It's unfortunate because he was definitely having an all-star season. somebody who, in Paolo's absence, really stepped up. But, they have two pillars over here. And, okay, they're two freak injuries. It sucks in the moment, but that the sky's the limit for this team. And these are two building blocks that are going to be there for a really long time.
For sure. I don't want to, write them off in this game this week because, they won last night, so anything can happen. But at the same point, it's going to be tough without both those guys. Milwaukee was 2-8. They're now 12-11, clearly playing better. I want to ask about Giannis in particular. He's now shooting 47% on middies this year, which is like by far his best number. I think as you're looking at him, you're looking at his game and his growth. What are you seeing for this week? And then also just like, if this dude is shooting like this from the mid range, what are you supposed to do on him defensively? Because he's going to run you over if you give him a shot.
Yeah, I think 47% is a great number, and especially when you think about how dominant he is at the rim. So I think that if you're a coach on the other side, you still want him shooting that shot. But 47% is a high number. He's definitely, to me, one of the most dominant players in the league. And, I think long-term, this is really, really going to help him. He's getting more and more comfortable shooting that shot, and it's going to open up the floor for his teammate, open up the game for his teammates. And, when I think of somebody, the amount of, when you're hitting the floor as many times as he is when he's getting to the rim, I think that making that shot is definitely going to make him play a lot longer.
How much interaction did you have with him playing wise?
I had a playoff series against Giannis when he was really young, and then we were able to. He was already a great player. He was already solid. But I remember my guy Mike Dunleavy gave him a little cheap shot, and he just lost it and just got thrown out the game for just like bulldozer over him. It was a crazy play. Like if you look at it, you're like, you don't see plays like that in the NBA.
Wait, what did he do?
He just completely lost his cool. And
no, what did Dunleavy do though?
Dunleavy just chopped him in the neck real quick, just a quick chop in the neck. And it definitely, he just lost his composure completely. It was his first playoff series, and he got thrown out the game. We ended up winning the series. And I think it was a learning experience for him. But I didn't really get to spend too much time with him, but obviously a lot of respect for Giannis and what he's been able to accomplish. I think it was a tough start of the season for them, but I think they're going to come back really nicely in the second half, and we'll definitely see them in the playoffs, and they'll be a hard team to beat.
Yeah, I was going to say, as you look at his physical gifts, and you look at somebody that size. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago with Jokic, but you look at somebody that size, that level of agility, and just kind of fluidity on the court. It really truly it feels sometimes like you're helpless as a defender. Even just watching from the sidelines, it feels like, I don't know. I saw them in Brooklyn yesterday, and he has 4 or 5 plays a game. We were like, this guy's can do whatever he wants, and it doesn't really feel. Everyone else kind of doesn't feel like they're out there when he wants to do this, and so it's just I'm always curious when talk to you and I talk to somebody who is your job is to stop somebody like this. You know what I mean? And you don't, and it's kind of like, and you're kind of like, and you can basically do it with everybody, but then you have some people who are. It's not just purely physical. He's obviously a really smart player, but there's a level of physicality that he has that just is at a different level from everybody else. And it feels, it's pretty crazy to see.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely don't call him the Greek freak for nothing, for sure. And for me, it was like, I remember how tough that pick and roll was with him coming at you full speed, how tough that was 10 years ago. So, now he's definitely a lot stronger. He's bigger. He's more athletic than he was even back then. So good luck to everybody who's in his way.
We got the West now. Your favorite team, the Houston Rockets. How's the love affair coming?
I love them. I got to watch their game yesterday. They got a big win yesterday. I just love their competitive spirit, man. Duka, the coach is like just definitely doing a great job, and they bring in they brought in Brooks, and they brought in the point guard
Fred VanVleet.
Van Fleet, and I think that those two guys are just they're just ready to win. And it's so obvious. Sengun's playing at a really high level. I think the pieces just add up, and I think that they're just ready to take that next step. They were in a rebuild the last couple years, and it's tough. Rebuilding sucks. You lose a lot of games, but to see those guys taking that next step, having the right vets around, their competitive spirit just shows all over the team. And those young guys are definitely taking the next step, and it's really exciting to see what they're going to do in the playoffs. I think that they're going to be a team to beat.
Your love of them is going to feel like a constant theme on a part of these Monday shows. I have a crazy stat for you. So they're playing the Warriors this week. They just lost to them the other night. The last time they beat the Warriors, last time the Rockets beat the Warriors, Russ and Harden were playing in Houston.
Wow.
Jokic had not won an MVP. The bubble had not happened. So COVID had not happened.
Wow.
15 straight for Golden State. And I think the other night was pretty impressive because Steph and Draymond weren't playing. Kuminga had 33. And so they're sometimes, and I'm curious your perspective on this in general about like mental blocks with an opponent where a team beats you for so long that it kind of feels like it doesn't matter who's out there. There's a little bit of that. But I'm just kind of thinking about like everything you just described about how much you love this team. How do you take that and translate it to stopping Steph? Because you're going to have to do it this week, but you're just going to have to do it in general if they are going to make that jump.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you can't put too much onto a loss, especially so early into the season. Obviously, losing to a team 15 times in a row sucks. But the thing with young teams is sometimes when a guy like Draymond, a guy like Steph, who are the star players, they sit out, you exhale. And you can't exhale in this league. So, guys are good enough to win. And I think that we're going to see a big, big game. Obviously, I think everybody wants to go to Vegas. Everybody wants to get to that 500K, the star players all the way down to the bench. So I think we're going to see a different Houston Rockets team. I also love the way Golden State's playing. I think that Steph and Dre definitely want to win. I watched them play yesterday. Draymond with Kuminga playing at such a high level. I think Draymond's minutes went down a little bit, but just like you see him just being such an emotional leader for everybody, regardless what his role is. I just love to see what they're doing.
What did you think about the dunk at the end?
Oh man, he was hyped. He was so hyped after the dunk, and then he put the sleepy on Rudy. It's like the game within the game. You gotta love that as a fan. Just like watching the games, we know that Rudy and Dre don't like each other.
Yeah,
and for Draymond to get a dunk like that and get his crowd hype and get his teammates hype like that, I thought it was huge.
Yeah, it's just awesome to have that in December. This is why you watch. It's like it's a moment.
It's a moment. It's a moment, and we'll talk about it all year.
You mentioned Kuminga. I was going to ask if you feel like he's a little bit of an X factor for them. He's played in his career, and his minutes have gone up and down. And they've had a lot of great teams. Obviously, his minutes have gone up and down since he was drafted. But in his career, he's played 30 minutes 36 times, and in those 36 times, he's averaged 20.6 rebounds, shot 55% from the field, 43% from three. There's been all kinds of stuff about, they may make trades, either trade him or trade other people to get him more playing time. But when you look at him and his particular game, and I think we saw it the other night against the Rockets, what is it about how he plays that you feel like kind of attributes to the numbers like that?
Well, I just see somebody who's going to get a lot of cheeseburgers. He's going to get paid a lot of money. And I think that he turned down a deal earlier in the year, so he has a chip on his shoulder. And they had him coming off the bench. I think that he played really well off the bench, but he played so well that they got to put him in the starting lineup. You can't deny the numbers. Tommy, you're really good at getting those advanced stats, So there's no lying. The truth is in the pudding. The guy's balling. And I think the fact that he's in the starting lineup, it's going to be interesting to see. I think they're still trying to figure out who their starters are. They're switching things around. Steve Kerr is really comfortable doing that. So we're not even getting the best of Golden State right now.
Last Western Conference matchup, probably the one I'm most excited for. OKC Dallas, two finals contenders, two of arguably, the three best teams in the NBA, you could say. Mavs are going on a 7-game win streak right now going into this. Thunder on a 3-game winning streak, first in the West. What do you think the X factor for this one is?
Depending on what team you're rooting for, but I mean, J-Dub's playing at a really high level for the Thunder. I mean, the Shai Luka matchup is box office TV. I think that if you're the Thunder, you're coming in there hungry because that they're the team that beat you last year, ended your season, and it's a big game. This is a big game to go to Vegas. So, I'll have my popcorn ready, and I'm really excited about that matchup.
We've talked about the Thunder defensively. They're on a historic pace right now.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, you're on a historic pace. You're missing Chet, but still they haven't missed a beat. But you got Luka and Kyrie on the other side. So how do you see the way those two guys in particular play? When you the matchup with the way that these guys just compete defensively?
Yeah. Well, I don't see Luka or Kyrie changing their style of play for anybody. And defensively, I think the wings on the Thunder are some of the best in the league. You look at Dort, Shai, those guys, and even J-Dub, these guys are top elite wing defenders, very well coached. They've been playing together. They have continuity. But, I think that there's another step they can get to when you bring it. Hardenstein comes back onto the court. He's playing at a really high level. And then you bring Chet back in. I think the sky's the limit for this team. We haven't seen them all playing together yet.
With how Luka plays, how physical he is, when we've talked a ton about Lou, Dort Caruso is back now as another guy that does this. J-Dub has been, free safety for them but he's just Luka's a matchup, and he's a matchup nightmare in his own right. What do you think we just did, we've done this on the show with him and with other guys who've played against him and played with him and everything like that. And sometimes there's not like a concrete, this is what you do to slow him down, because if he gets going, he's just going to get going. But when you have somebody that's that big and that physical, you have to approach that matchup differently, I would say, defensively than, a smaller guard that's an incredible shooter and playmaker, but you could maybe knock off their stride a little bit. He's tough to knock off his stride. And so what do you think with the way those guys play defense? If you were on the sideline and you were, talking to them, what do you say to them about somebody like Luka?
Good luck. Honestly, Luka is he's a nightmare, man. It's just almost impossible to guard. I think for him it's all mental. When I think of Luka as talented as he is offensively, I just want him to be a better floor leader, a better emotional leader for his team. I see him he gets frustrated very easily. He's complaining at the refs, but if he can just lock into getting his teammates on the right path and making sure everybody's strong, what Draymond does for Golden State. If we could get Luka's energy channeled more towards his teammates, I think that's the next step for him, and that's where they're going to take the next step as a team. But I just felt that's what would be I love Luka. I love watching him play, and I think that he's somebody who's definitely in a stride right now. He's getting real comfortable after his wrist injury. I just you're asking me how I would guard him if I was Coach Smart, what would I do? I would probably try to put Dort on him, try to front him, and try to just make him as uncomfortable as possible and just play as physical as possible. It's not an easy task, though.
I was going to say, it's a little bit of a rhetorical question in that, you're going to know when you see it. It's not like there's a plan that's sitting out there that is if you do this, it's going to work, as much as somebody plays him the right way. And then you'll be like, oh yeah, that, maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see it Tuesday, but that's the, that is the way to kind of front him and make him uncomfortable. How about Kai? Because we haven't talked about him a ton on the show.
I mean, Kai's just, to me, he's the most fun player to watch. Just what a magician on the court. His catch and shoot is through the roof. So I just, the Luka and Kyrie combination, they play so well together. Sometimes Luka needs a little break and they have like the perfect 1-2 punch. And I feel like Kyrie's accepted that role. Sometimes he has to step up and just be the offensive juggernaut that he is. But I think that he just really understands when it's time to go, when it's time to slow down and let Luka do his thing. It's really beautiful to watch. I think he wanted to be that number one guy. I think he understands that it's Luka's team, but at the same time, when it's time for him to go, he has a perfect, his timing of when it's time to actually push it. He really knows when.
Have you had moments with him? Because we talk about this people constantly with him. I think a lot of people will consider him, if not the best, ball handler of all time, to be in that conversation for sure. But have you had moments with him where he'll do things and you are and you've been blown away just watching him do it?
Yeah, he's just like one of those guys when you play in the pick and roll. Usually I feel pretty comfortable guarding a point guard coming at me, but he's the English that he puts on the ball when he's scoring at the rim. He's very comfortable going at bigs for his size, which is pretty unusual. But just his skill set is just so unmatched. It's like it's Trae ball. But he's the handle and just being able to finish around the rim is next level.
The last thing I want to bring up before we wrap up, the Mavs role players. We just talked about their stars for a minute, who are obviously a huge factor in both getting to the finals last year and where they are this year so far. But Lively, Quentin Grimes, they added PJ Washington, Najee, Daniel Gafford, like goes on and on. Clay, Clay's been in and out of the lineup, but just it feels. I'm just sort of curious your perspective with them from a team building standpoint. About it feels like some of the success is also hitting on these other guys.
I mean, I think that this is a team that made it to the NBA Finals. So you saw when you're playing at that level, you see where the holes were. They needed more shooting. You bring in guys like Klay Thompson that, he's not a guy who needs to score 25 points for them. You just got to hit big shots when they matter. And I think it was a perfect fit for him. I think you see the success. They won 7 in a row. Even though his scoring might be a little bit down, I think that he's just a perfect fit. And then you see a guy like Grimes, who didn't really get that much of an opportunity in New York, that I always really liked his game. And for him to get an opportunity right now and play well, I think that's great. So they definitely got better in their shooting. And then you could tell that Lively also took another step in the summer. I love the fact that they used Tyson Chandler as well to work with him in the summertime. I think that's definitely, I see the similarities in their games, and to be able to have a vet, a OG like that, to be able to coach you and who has been through the battles and have that kind of communication with them. I think it's a really good thing that Jason Kidd did.
Before we get to one city, I want to just get predictions for all 4 of these because I didn't ask you for the other ones. All right, Knicks Hawks.
Knicks Hawks. First of all, anything can happen in a one game, but I'm happy to do the prediction thing with you. But this isn't a 7-game series. This is in one game. This is one game.
I'm sensing an upset pick.
It could be completely wrong, and I'm okay with it. But for Knicks Hawks, I'm going in the Garden. I'm going Knicks.
Yeah, Milwaukee.
Orlando, Milwaukee. I love Orlando, but without their 2 studs, I think it's going to be tough. But you never know. Karl-Anthony hasn't played all year. Shout out Karl-Anthony, not playing all year, being ready. I saw he had a big game yesterday, so I want to give his flowers. If he doesn't go for big numbers, it's going to be really tough. So Milwaukee.
The Western Houston, Golden State. This I feel is the hardest one for you. Actually, both these are tough.
This is where I think Look, I love Houston. That's my team, but this is a big game. I think Draymond comes in hype. I think everybody's going to be hype, but I can't go against Steph and Draymond to go to Vegas. I think
the streak rolls on. We'll see. Last one, Thunder Mavs.
Thunder Mavs. I'm going Mavericks. Dallas Mavericks.
I like it. Before we wrap, can you tell everybody a little bit about what you did this weekend? We've talked about it a little bit on the show before. It's an incredible event, incredible tournament, and you can just kind of give some of the highlights.
No, this weekend I was in Chicago and we were able to have our one city finals. This is a basketball league that I created a long time ago with my brother, Kobe Williams. This is a violence prevention league. Obviously, basketball is not the top priority, but I think we have 400 participants, and we had our finals in the neighborhood at Phillips High School. So shout out to Phillips High School for letting us host. But it was a community-driven event. We had people cooking out in the cold, and it was just a beautiful event. Derrick Rose came, Pooh came, show love to the guys on the south side, on the west side. I think that everybody was really happy to see him. We had Tony Allen, who's our commissioner of the league as well. The only problem was in the finals, Tony Allen was kind of getting on the he was on the west side a little bit too much. And as the commissioner, you can't really pick sides. So we have, we're having like internal issues with that, but we'll have that conversation with Tony a little bit later. You can't be, just because you're from the west side.
The commissioner cannot be rooting for one of the teams.
Can't be rooting for anybody. Exactly. Tell him, Tommy. I'm trying to tell him.
That's crazy.
But shout out to everybody who participated. It was a great event. One city, we're here to stay. We're going to keep growing this, and very, very, very proud to be a part of this violence prevention league in the community.
And you guys will do these events twice a year as of now?
Well, right now we're doing 3 times a year. We want to do it a little bit more. We want to be able to have it all year. We're trying to get a girls' league going soon too. So we're building this. This is not going anywhere. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing in Chicago, and we're just going to keep building.
And we'll keep everybody updated, both with this, but then also if and when it hits other cities, because I think there'll be opportunities for anyone who wants to get involved to get involved.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that, Tommy.
So Joe, thank you for the time. I think we will see. We'll see how these predictions. We'll check in on these predictions this time next week.
That's right.
All right, man.
Take it easy, guys.